What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is September 17th of 2018. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a wonderful day today. Today, I want to spend some time to talk to you all about something that I refer to as the calm before the storm. Now, this isn't referring to a pinnacle viewpoint of mine that the market is going to rally to new highs or Bitcoin's going to go all the way down to $5,000 or $4,000. It's more referring to the fact that as we've been in a sideways market for quite some time, that we're going to pick up a definitive direction in price over the next week, 2 or 3 weeks max, in my opinion. And I'm going to be spending some time to talk about why I believe that, and then also some of the signs we can use in a non-biased way to be more determinative as to whether or not the market is going to move higher or to the downside. Again, we're still in a sideways market. Prices are still generally moving sideways. There's no definitive direction. It's almost like a twilight zone where we're curious as to what's going to happen. But we can use a lot of different signs, whether they be technical, speculative, or fundamental, to determine what's more likely. So let's go ahead, dive right into it. And I want to spend some time to talk about and justify a little bit as to why I believe we're stepping towards the calm before the storm, and we're stepping towards a very definitive picture as to where Bitcoin's going to be moving in the longer term of things. So if we take a look here at Bitcoin, obviously, I think we're all very aware here that we've been building into a very well-formed technical pattern over the past few months. Again, TA is subjective. People will have different outlines on how they will interpret the chart. But for me personally, I've seen a very clear technical pattern where ever since back here in January of 2018 that we've had a line of resistance. We've had a high here, relatively close here, and then for the past 2 highs, Bitcoin has been shot down at this line of resistance. And it's become obviously clear that Bitcoin is making lower highs, and that, again, we're looking to see signs of support on the other end, which we have had so far. We've been able to have a support at 6,000, again, a key support level back here, and a level of resistance back in October, as well as a support in November. But throughout 2018, we've held relatively at these levels, sometimes specifically at 6,000, sometimes well above 6,000, and sometimes slightly below around 58 to 5,900. Again, riding around that key even level. We haven't seen Bitcoin hold support levels at 7,000 or 8,000, practically speaking, and along with that as well, we haven't seen key support levels all the way down at 4,000 or 5,000. So we've been holding at 6,000 and we've been having lower highs. What is this signal? Well, this signals a descending triangle, which in general terms is a bearish trend in markets. We've talked about this again, talking about different technical patterns and wedges and triangles, and it tends to be that when we see a descending triangle in most markets, that it's going to mean a further downside. So this could be a technical term, meaning, a technical pattern signaling that we might be expecting 5,000 or 4,000 for Bitcoin. And again, we've seen in the past that it's very, very likely that Bitcoin goes through 80% retracements in these longer term swings. For example, we saw Bitcoin go all the way from around $1,000 in the past down to $200, and it made that a key level of support. So we could see 4,000 or 5,000 be the key level that we go to in the longer term of things. But as of now, we've been in this sideways market. We've been pushing to the side here. And it's important to look at what could possibly be a catalyst, or the different varieties of catalysts to move markets higher. And then also, what are some of the things that could hold back Bitcoin and possibly put it in a position where we could see those lower levels. So let's go ahead and take a look at the positive side of things. Because to be fair with you all, from what I can analyze, and I'm not trying to just be a permabull, I understand that's a worry of many people with some of the, I think the YouTubers and just generally people in the space, is that it's very easy to be in love with crypto. I'm very realistic though in a market perspective, but I will say that there are more optimistic things rather than negatives. The things that play to the bearish side are more technical indicators that we have to surpass in order to be fully bullish. And we'll take a look at that a little bit later on in the video. So the first thing I want to talk about here is that I'm not so much focused actually on Bitcoin. I think that we have to understand that Bitcoin itself can definitely be a key role to look at, and that Bitcoin tends to lead markets. But there's another player that I'm keeping an eye on as of recent that I think could really be a catalyst for carrying markets, and that's Ethereum. The reason I want to talk about Ethereum here is that we saw a very interesting trend reversal here back a few days ago. And if we take a look at the weekly, I want to focus first on the volume here, and we can take a look here on Binance. We'll get a more clear picture as to what I'm talking about, because this is where most volume is. we have been seeing a buildup in volume here for Ethereum to the downside. We've been seeing Ethereum's price go down, testing towards a key support level back here from December before we get the altcoin rally. And as we were seeing this decline in price here, we were also seeing an increase in volume. But interestingly enough, the other day we had a very serious amount of volume, in fact, outpacing the last day of serious sell-side volume. And ever since then, not only has Ethereum's price made a nice steady rebound, to be fair, but along with that, we've been seeing declining volume, meaning that the momentum to the sell side might be done. We might have seen the peak of the actual fear and doubt in Ethereum, at least in the short term here, and possibly might be seeing a trend reversal. And we have a lot of price room here. Again, keep in mind, a lot of room for price to potentially make up some of its losses. So again, Ethereum has been really kind of helping to serve as a catalyst for altcoin markets. And if Ethereum starts to move up, you can bet that many of the ERC20 tokens and some of the other just simple altcoins will follow as well, and even faster than Ethereum. So if Ethereum right now can generally hold above 3,500,000 Satoshis, I can say that if we can get above the highs over here, which is roughly around 3,500,000 Satoshis, I think that we can have a more definitive trend and potentially make up a lot of these losses all the way up to the 50-day and maybe even higher. But what's going to be carrying Ethereum even higher? I think it's the potential going in here to the later part of the fall of talks of the CBOE launching Ethereum futures contracts. We've heard that the CBOE has been talking about this ever since that they've the time they announced the Bitcoin futures contracts. They've been eager to launch these products and get more of these financial instruments into the market. And I understand futures contracts are a very controversial topic for people. Some people think they're going to be good. Some people think they're going to be bad. Let's be honest though, much like in the Bitcoin futures that carried Bitcoin back in December, I think it's very well going to be that Ethereum futures contracts serve as a catalyst for Ethereum to move higher. It's going to bring institutional interest and institutional exposure into the cryptocurrency space, much like Bitcoin futures did. And as we've seen Bitcoin futures really grow as a successful financial instrument in regards to volume, we could very well see the same with Ethereum and the excitement come around that. Now, again, this is something that has been rumored to come out before December of this year. There is no definitive decision. Again, I think the CBOE is showing some concerns. I think the SEC has been relatively clear in their position, but they also want to make sure that the CFTC is in line with the values of it being okay to launch Ethereum futures contracts. CFTC has actually been a little bit more optimistic than the SEC. But again, it's a matter of regulatory bodies coming in and giving them the clear go away to do this, because it's not going to be too difficult to set up the futures contracts. They've already done it with Bitcoin. It's a matter of following the same principles and procedures with Ethereum. And again, they've been planning for this for a while, so they've probably got most things set in stone. It's just getting a go from the regulators. So we've had Bitcoin futures. It's very likely that we could also see Ethereum futures, seeing as the topic of Ethereum being registered as a security is starting to tether away. And we're starting to see more of a more lenient regulatory framework around Ethereum and Ethereum-based products. So I think it's very, very likely that in the next month or so, we could very well see Ethereum futures contracts. I think we could see it in October, November, or December, coming sometime this year. Either way, the announcement is really what's going to carry markets before actually getting it implemented. And then again, this has been reported across a variety of different news sections since back in late August and early September. So again, I think we're getting very close to this. We should keep in mind that Ethereum could very well be a catalyst, not only to help Bitcoin get an aid and some exuberance in price, but also for altcoins to get a very well needed bounce in the market. Some of the large protocols and also some of the peer-to-peer digital currencies potentially getting a little bit of excitement around the idea that we might get more futures contracts around some of these other different plays in the market. Maybe, for example, Litecoin futures, or futures contracts around different protocols in the market. Again, more institutional exposure to cryptocurrencies. Along with this as well, I want to talk about the tone of the ETF space right now, right? This has been a topic of, again, another topic of controversy. Again, I think the whole crypto space is in a bubble of controversy right now. But I think the thing that's important to take into mind here, guys, is two things. One, I want to be fair with you all. I've been a little bit off on the ETF predictions, and I talked about this last night in my live stream. where I've actually gotten to meet a lot of wonderful people in the crypto space who have also had years of experience in the traditional space. Now, I don't want to tell names. I like to respect people's privacy, but they've given me a very good window as to what it looks like to actually get an ETF approved. And it is a little bit more of a complex process. What I've come to realize here is more than anything that the SEC is taking a much more positive tone towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies than many people think. And along with that they're willing to possibly produce a Bitcoin ETF. The fact of the matter is that it takes time, that they need to make sure that they get the right approval through, and to understand that ETFs, once they're approved onto market, you can't restructure them. They're generally in line with the proposal that the SEC approves, which is why, again, back a few months ago, I think we were focusing in on an SEC proposal to potentially build an ETF pipeline system that could easily launch ETFs to market, so long as they meet certain regulatory principles. But talking about a specific headline here, I want to talk about the tones and change within the SEC. As of recent, Elad Rosman has been a recent SEC chairman appointee that has been approved by the Senate to come on to the SEC and help determine and making decisions. And as we know, there's a select few commissioners that are actually going about determining the decisions for these ETF approvals. And people are generally getting the tone that Elad is actually quite positive on cryptocurrencies. Again, he believes and understands the importance of the SEC, as we can tell from the quote here, in regards to managing capital markets. The U.S. is, again, a pinnacle on the world stage for this, and this is why many people follow the SEC's regulations on a global scale. So if you're in Asia or in European markets, many of them mock or follow the principles of the SEC. But along with this as well, with people, for example, like Hester Pierce, who we know obviously is very big proponent of cryptocurrency products, we can start to see the tone shifting. We have two that are against cryptocurrencies in the commission board, and then also two that are in favor, and one that is yet to be undecided. So it's very much like the Supreme Court. Many people talk about the importance of the Supreme Court because it's a select few parties, and if you can get one or two positions changed, you can have a very different outlook on the interpretation of something as big as the Constitution or constitutional law. Same goes here with the SEC and the tone as to whether or not we should get Bitcoin products out to market, or that we should wait a few years until these markets are more mature. So this is very important. I think this was a piece of news that really got brushed under most of the major news sites, whether it be mainstream media outlets like Bloomberg or crypto sites like Cointelegraph or CoinDesk. Again, they might have written articles on this, but I still think this is generally kind of under the radar, and people aren't factoring that as we start to see the tone shift in these different regulatory bodies, that we could very well have much more of a likely chance of getting one of these ETFs approved. Not to mention, we have a few ETFs coming down in the next few days. Again, some could be pushed back, but it's a matter of, again, seeing that tone shift. I don't know if we're going to be getting this by the end of 2018, as I had previously predicted, guys. And again, this is where I admit my mistakes. I think we could very well see it in the later part of 2018 or in the early part of 2019. I think the early part of 2019 is a little bit more reasonable. But what could be the catalyst to carry markets until then could be the Ethereum futures contracts. So we've got different things here coming in regards to the speculative kind of financial play of markets. So going back here again, we've talked about some of the positive things coming through here. Again, I've also been talking about some of the fundamental exciting things, such as what's going on in emerging markets where there's currency crises and people are adopting cryptocurrencies at a rapid rate. We've talked about all these things before. So we have some positive things to look forward to, but what are some of the negative things here that could point us towards more downside in cryptocurrencies? Well, there's a few simple things. One, if Bitcoin breaks below, I think, 6,000 at this point, you could very well expect that with the amount of short positions that there are, the amount of negativity that there's in the market, the prices could go down to 5,000. I don't know about 4,000. 4,000 is definitely a stretch, especially with all the downside we've already experienced. I think you need more upside before you can, in a prolonged bear market afterwards, to get 4,000. But you could very well have a break at 6,000. We're relatively close to that. We're, again, right close to the level of support we've held for a while, but it could turn from support to resistance quite quick, and we could go to lower levels. So if you have a serious break on 6,000, maybe past 5,800, I would say that we're pretty confidently going to go to 5,000 or possibly lower levels. But the big thing here that I'd say that really is feeding for the bears here is the fact that we need to get past three key levels of resistance. That is the 50 and 100 day, which I kind of consider they're moving quite similar in price action. So I think that this is considered as one indicator. Closing above these would be one of the three areas that the bulls need to pass. They also need to pass the line of resistance, which again historically has been holding down Bitcoin's price. You get above this, we're starting to get a little bit more confident. But again, we have not done that yet. And then a lot of that is as well is an indicator that has also held down Bitcoin, which is the 200-day. We've seen that the 200-day was acting as support and has now started acting as resistance in the past, as we can see here 3 times in the past. So we're going to have to get past all 3 indicators to really get bullish here, which makes this, in my mind, a bearish indicator here. Until we've passed these, we cannot be confident that price is going to be moving much higher or moving to much higher levels such as 10,000 or 12,000. There's just not, in my opinion right now, the volume or the drive to do that. So we're going to need one of these catalysts to come into play here, where we could very well see 5,000 in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that being said, everyone, I'd love to hear what you all think about this. I thought it would be very good to spend some time talking about the in-depth price action at the moment and Bitcoin and also some of the large pairs like Ethereum, rather than focusing on specific altcoins, because we know that Bitcoin and Ethereum are really what drive markets at the moment. And if we can't see a major increase in volume and some of these bigger catalysts come into play, we could very well expect some downside. But if we have one of these come into play, some very, very serious optimism, some very serious jumps in price action, and really getting out of this sideways tone. Either way, we're getting tighter in price action, so the market is going to be making, I think, in my opinion, is going to be making a determinative decision on direction for a longer term period in the next coming weeks. I'd like to hear what you all think down in the comments down below. What do you think is more likely? And rather than just saying what your price target is, or if you're bullish or bearish, tell me what you think down below. Tell me what you think price is going to be doing, and why do you think it's going to be doing it? What catalysts are giving you that feel? Again, we're all here to learn. We're here to learn from one another, hear different opinions, and become better traders in the process. Anyways, that's it for the video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, as I stated before. And until the next video, I will see you all in the next one. Stay tuned.